we're joined by the chairperson of the Walter and Albertina Sisulu Foundation for Social Justice, Dr. Alan Boesak. Dr. Boesak, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. Before we even get into, the issues surrounding the former Ambassador Rasool, tonight we're asking our, audience just to talk about their reflections ahead of Human Rights Day tomorrow. What are yours?
Thank you, Abongi. Good evening to you and good evening to your listeners. Human Rights Day, of course, is always an extraordinary important day. And I think for South Africans, it will have three meanings that we must reflect upon and ponder. The first is, of course, the global application of human rights that we now know that has become the obligation of governments and entities and communities and individuals, especially with regard to those who are the most vulnerable in our societies. And so you have those first human rights who were fairly liberal, and they were broadened to say, no, it's not just about freedom of speech, for instance. It's also about freedom for the best education. It's also about protection from hunger and thirst and protection from all sorts of violence, so especially women and children. So all of these things make it up. But that secondly, it falls on today, tomorrow, on Sharpeville Massacre Day. And so it's important for South Africa what happened that led up to Sharpeville, the 1950s, the Defiance Campaign, what happened on Sharpeville Day, the targeting of people who were unarmed, 69 dead, over 180 wounded by the police, who showed South Africa and the world then that the white apartheid government was not going to be restrained by anything in order to hold on and maintain and protect white power and white privilege and white superiority. But for people like me, 21st of March also is the commemoration of the massacre at Langa Township in 1985 on tomorrow. And so where 42 people were killed and the police were only willing to release about 27 bodies. But Archbishop Tutu and I were the preachers that day, so I have a vivid memory of that week, about talking to the parents, speaking to the community, talking to people who have lost their children and their loved ones, and the community who have lost their heroes. And so for me, in my mind's eye, I still sit there counting those 27 coffins. And for me then, and for South Africa, human rights is not just a concept, it is these realities that link us to our struggle, to our
Dr. Boesak,
fight for human rights everywhere, including in Palestine.
Please pardon me. Please stay on the line with us. We are now taking, in fact, just give me a second just to warn you there. We do have the developments in the IOC that are currently taking place. Kirsty Coventry has made history as, the first African female to then lead that particular body. So we may just pause you for a sec to rush there. But for now, let's continue with our conversation. I just wanted to give you that heads up so that you're not surprised. But
I'm in your hands. I'm in your hands, man.
Pardon me. Thank you for understanding, though. Let's look at another matter. You and I are speaking, and at the weekend, we are expecting the former Ambassador Rasool to make his way back home. And we know the developments that have taken place in the US. There have been varying views about his remarks, some saying they were not so, they may have bordered the line. Others are saying they didn't. In fact, he was accurate. So when you look at all these developments and how the US has handled it and the responses, of course, from all walks of life, what is your reflection on what has taken place?
Well, I mean, there is a view that ambassadors should be extraordinarily careful because they are diplomats, they are not activists, and so they must be careful what they say and how they put their words, especially when they talk about the country that is their host. And so that's one point of view. There is another point of view that says, but ambassadors are valuable people because certain situations, they develop experiences, they develop views and perspective that can be very important for the public, the broader public, to hear. So they're not just there to defend or explain their country's policies. They are also there to explain to their country's public what is really going on and what those events inside that country may have as an impact on our situation. So I really don't know why. Well, I know why Trump was so quick to respond to Ibrahim Rasool, because he was looking for a way out to let South Africa understand, you're either going to do what I say and you're going to bend to our will, or we will punish you in every way possible. Now, the sanctions we've talked about all sorts of other things. We've talked about AGOA, we've talked about diplomatic isolation in many ways, but now here we are, not just our ambassador called into the president's office or to Marco Rubio's office for a dressing down, not just a public statement saying this is not what we expect, but actually in the most undiplomatic, throwing every rule out of the window, saying to Rasool, you no longer welcome here. So what does that mean? So that is the thing. So in Cape Town, already a week ago, I heard that the community was going to go to the airport to express not just their welcoming of Rasool, but their welcoming of the way in which he expressed their feelings about what is happening in the United States today. They're welcoming him in order to express their anger that the president, who's extraordinarily weak in these things, have thrown him under the bus so quickly and so easily. So the fact that I then get an invitation, not an invitation, an advertisement from the ANC, Dola Omar region, that they're going to welcome him, let me ask the question, so what are they going to do? What are they going to say about the reaction of the president? What are they going to say about what the ANC in the Western Cape should feel? And already I hear in your news now that the president has said, oh, please don't inflame, please be careful, please be restrained. Well, we will see, because now it is a test of the community's feelings over against the presidency's feelings. It is the test over of what is the Western Cape ANC, who is looking for some credibility to really make some inroads in the Western Cape, because they are very, very sidelined here. So yeah, go ahead.
How then, in your view, should this be handled, especially when you listen to what the spokesperson of the presidency had to say, that there's now even the Cape Independence Advocacy that's announced that there's a planned visit now to go to Washington, D.C. We've seen in recent times as to the number of those that have also gone, the formations that have gone to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, this AfriForum thing, Bonge, has almost become like an infectious disease. All these people running to Trump. And the question that we must ask is, what are we willing to do to make sure that not only our sovereignty is intact, but that our self-respect as a nation remains intact and our dignity as a people remains intact? So all these people, AfriForum and Kaapse-Forum and these independent people led by a white man who comes from Britain, is not even a South African, by the way, that they think themselves capable of going to Trump, who is the groot baas in Washington over the world, to go and complain to the boss what these people are doing to them. And that, how do they think Trump must intervene to make the independence of the Western Cape in their mold, what they want, to make that a reality? They do that, of course, because they perceive the country as weak, they perceive the president as weak, they perceive the ANC as weak, but they also do that because the DA in some way is an instigator in this. Remember that the DA sent a delegation before our elections to ask the US government to intervene in our elections to make sure that things go well. Now the DA has sent their own delegation, bypassing everybody in the Department of Foreign Affairs, bypassing the presidency, to go. So what is that? Are they asking Donald Trump, with the US, with its reputation of interventions and coups d'etats and assassinations of leaders over the last 100 years, are they asking that kind of intervention? If they're asking diplomatic consultation, then they should go through the presidency, also go through the Department of Foreign Affairs. So I think we should be very firm with these groups and make sure that we stand on a point that we will not allow the dignity and the self-respect of our country and our people to be undermined.
How do you contend with the Democratic Alliance, for example? Shortly after that visit, they came back and they said that they were doing this in the interest of South Africans. They're South Africans. They're going there to make sure that they're pleading South Africa's case. And then you also, listen to some of what is coming out, especially when I was speaking to AfriForum as well. They say that they're also doing this in the interest of South Africa, they told us here on the show. So when you're then listening to what they are saying, and then you listen to Durko, because immediately after we spoke to Durko, and Durko says to us, countries, governments engage with different groupings all the time. There's nothing untoward that would have happened if the Democratic Alliance would have gone there. So how do you contend then with all of that?
No. I mean, they have to say there's nothing untoward, because clearly, in my view, in this coalition, the DA is the dominant partner. The DA is usurping more and more prominence for itself, dominance for itself, power to itself, overriding the African National Congress if it wants to, challenging the ANC on very fundamental things. And so, which shows to me that this fragile coalition that we have is indeed on very, very shaky ground. But also, we have given the DA far too much space to do these things, because there is too much coincidence of ways of thinking between the ANC leadership and the DA what they want to do. So I would be very, very clear that the DA has overstepped the line. I would not see the AfriForum and these white racist groups who want to break away the Western Cape because they do not want to stand under any kind of black government. I would not see that as the normal course of events. In fact, I would see that as an undermining of the authority of the state, because they go there for racist reasons. Trump is inviting white farmers, white racist farmers, offering them an expedited way into citizenship in the United States, while at the same time he's closing the doors and tightening the ropes for over 22 countries in Africa. At the same time, he is mass deporting people from Latin America out of the United States. So clearly that's a racial agenda. So they are buying into a racial agenda which should be anathema to us. That's number one. Number two, they are going there on the basis of blatant lies. Now, I'm critical of our government. I'm critical of what is happening here. But I will defend my country when such blatant lies are told. White people are not being oppressed. White people are not being sidelined. White people's land is not being stolen. I mean, it's an oxymoron to even talk about white people's land being stolen when they have stolen the land from us, and we have not made single move to make the real justified retribution in terms of the land for our people. There has not been such an honest discussion, and there cannot be such an honest discussion until we talk about Article 25 of the Constitution. So if they go on the basis of lies, disparaging the country, we should be very clear and make a stand to let them know you are crossing a line here.
Should South Africa continue to try to secure this meeting that it wants with the US, and at the same time, as they take their time, as we're told that they're taking their time in appointing, Rasool's replacement, how then do they deal with all of that in your view now? Should they still be pursuing this meeting?
Well, of course, they should continue to talk. Diplomacy always means that we are ready to talk. But you now know who Trump is. You now know what his policies are. You now know what his intentions are. So you go there, and you know that Trump is a bully in a real sense of the word. I'm not disparaging him, but the things he wants to do with Panama and with Canada and with Greenland, clearly, and with BRICS, clearly, threat and bullying is what he thinks his diplomatic style is. And so you don't go there to bully him back because we can't. But you go there and you make clear before you go the dignity of our people, the self-respect of our people, if this is what is going to guide us in the conversations with this man. You go there and you think in your mind already, and we should have been prepared for this already 4 years ago, and we don't know why. We knew what was coming even under Biden because of our stance on Palestine. So you prepare yourself. Should the Americans come and say AGOA is now going to be thrown out the window. What are our alternatives? And you work on those alternatives. You say to yourself, Trump is one thing, but at the same time, this may be, and this is, a challenge to our government. Can we now make real strides toward a self-reliance that we did not think of because we were depending on whatever it is the Americans thought fit to give us? Can we make a bold stand and find other countries in Africa to say this is the point of departure? From the church, we would say this is the Kairos moment. This is the moment of challenge. This is the moment for a turning point in our history and our relationship with the United States of America. I'm not saying walking away. I'm not saying acting as if the U.S. does not exist. I am saying act as if the U.S. no longer is the only unipolar power in the world. That is what should be our situation now. What are the alternatives that South Africa is working out for itself, with itself, and in cooperation with other countries in Africa, and especially within the framework of BRICS? That should be our concentrate now. But we cannot bow the knee before Donald Trump as if we have no self-respect and no dignity.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Boesak, for your time. That was the chairperson of the Walter and Albertina Sisulu Foundation for Social Justice, Dr. Alan Boesak.